Today marks the start of National Infertility Awareness Week, a time to increase understanding about infertility and help those who struggle with it to know they are not alone. I sat down with a local family to talk about their journey.
It can feel very lonely as you're walking the IVF path and infertility.
In a staggering report from the World Health Organization, about 1 in 6 people worldwide struggle with infertility. So it's a lot more common than people think.
So it's a little bit of a misconception that it's getting more prevalent actually, but I think there's a lot more awareness. People are talking about it. It used to be like a really covert operation if people were struggling with infertility or doing treatment, and now I think there's a lot more, people sharing their journeys on social media and just being willing to talk to friends and family about it.
Infertility is the lack of ability to get pregnant after trying to naturally conceive for about a year. It's a problem both men and women can have.
It's about 40% of the time it could be issues with like sperm numbers or quality, and then another 40% of the time it could be issues with maybe ovulation or some anatomic problem that we just need to fix the underlying problem. And about 20% of the time we do all the testing and we really can't come up with like an obvious explanation, and we call that unexplained infertility.
Dylan and Justine Linnestruth are just one of many families who struggle with infertility. Dylan was born with cystic fibrosis, a disease affecting the organs, making most men infertile. That did not stop them from trying to conceive. After trying for over a year, they realized they needed to take a different route, using in vitro fertilization, or IVF.
Don't be afraid to need help.
Yeah.
I think we're getting better about that as a society, about maybe a stigma behind infertility or being a failure as a woman if you can't conceive or something like that. But I think it's important just to know that there's people like Dr. Conway and Idaho Fertility Center who are here for you and know what you're going through. And then there's a whole community outside of that as well.
Now they have 1-year-old twin boys.
This was something I never thought would happen.
There isn't a cure, but there's a solution depending on what the underlying problem is. And I think no matter what the underlying diagnosis is for infertility, if you're willing to be creative, and family building's a lot more creative than it used to be, there's almost always going to be some way of treating it.
This week, people are encouraged to share their stories, get information, and offer support.
What's empowering is just having information and options. It is a true disorder. And I think that's what this coming week is really about, to raise awareness about infertility and all the different kind of diagnostic, problems that can come up and how to treat them.
Reporting in Idaho Falls, I'm Kaylee Galaviz. And to get involved this week, people are encouraged to wear the color orange. The hashtag Wear Orange campaign was created in 1989 as a sign of support for National Infertility Awareness Week.